On December 16, 1944, Nazi Germany launched its last great offensive, hurling some 24 divisions against American and Allied forces. It became known as the Battle of the Bulge, and over the next month, some 19,000 Americans were killed in action. But the Nazis were thrown back and their offensive capabilities destroyed. Next, our one-on-one interview with Harry Fernandes, a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge who shares what he experienced as a foot soldier fighting the Germans and the bitter winter cold of 1944.
Let's pick the story up again just as December 16th is virtually upon us and on the anniversary of the Bulge, to revisit what happened around those circumstances. What do you recall of the beginning of that, the Battle of the Bulge?
Well, we were told that...
Now, let me interject. You had said earlier, which is a little different, as you say, than some of what we have heard, that the German counteroffensive was a surprise attack. You were saying there was some indication that the Germans were going to attack before it happened.
Well, we had photographs showing their buildup. In fact, even a fair count of how many tanks they had, and that the fact that they were bringing up infantry reinforcements on trucks and so forth.
What was the discussion amongst members of the 2nd Division then? I mean, were you guys...
Well, we took...
In the country, at least in America, some people were speculating that the Germans might surrender before Christmas.
Well, we knew better than that, but the Eisenhower had told Omar Bradley, the First Army, that it's better to kill the Germans in Belgium than it is to fight them on their home ground in Germany. So that's why we didn't know where they were going to attack, because all of this massive buildup, they could have attacked at various different areas. But if we put two new divisions, which unfortunately were untrained in combat, then it's a pretty good chance that, oh, that's a weak spot, and that's exactly what the Germans fell for. And the purpose was to have the 106th and the 99th to retreat back and to provide a bulge, and then what the other divisions, the 2nd and I think the 96th or some, there were about 4 other divisions were to cut them off, But unfortunately, the weather was such that it became so foggy that you couldn't see nothing.
Let me, if I might, again return though from your own, what you saw, what you heard, and let's pick it up as far as when the battle began. How did you know that a battle had started? Did they start off with artillery, or just how were you?
Well, we were back at Elsenborn, which I mentioned was a few miles back away from, and we heard nothing, but there were radio dispatches back to our division, and in fact the 99th and the 106th were, moving back from their positions, and that we would be seeing some of those. So we put the word out that when you see those people coming at you, they're not Germans, they're our own people. So that we wouldn't be shooting at our own people. And eventually we did see some of the either 106th or the 99th. I couldn't, because nobody wore a patch over there, and we could not tell, what areas or divisions they were from.
So the fighting started. At what point did your 2nd Division, or what point did you start getting moved up to the line?
About 3 days after, about the 17th, I think, about the 16th or 17th.
A couple of days after the battle began.
We pushed through the 99th and the 106th, and then we were to regain what they had lost.
they were in retreat, and you guys who had been some veterans, because again, for the viewers to know, the 106th, as you say, whereas a Green Division, they had not been in combat before. Many of those men had just graduated from high school some months before and were just newly over here, whereas your division had more combat experience and were veterans at that point.
Well, they had gone through Normandy, Brittany, and 2 major campaigns, and were pretty battle-hardened and pretty battle-savvy.
So, in the fighting, what describe the battle from the rifleman's viewpoint that you were in the Battle of the Bulge? What did you see? What did you hear? What happened?
Well, it snowed, and we were in snow about I guess 30 inches of snow, and it was fairly difficult to walk, but we were told that we had to take back approximately 12 miles that was lost in 3 days. So they gave us 9 K rations. Of course, we emptied the boxes and put them in our pack in the back, and off we went. So we did not stop for 72 hours, and we were back at the St. Vith and Malmedy, the area that we originally had turned over to the 106th and the 99th.
When you're fighting like that, how is it? Is it day fighting? Is it night fighting? Is it both? And,
both.
And how close is the combat?
Well, we had, of course, the M1. You can shoot a guy half a mile away real easy and kill him. So at night we put the bayonets on it was a psychological thing. The Germans did not like bayonets. They never ever put bayonets on. And it was more of an intimidation, and they knew that we were coming, and we were relentless, and we were just going to go ahead. But when it came daylight, we took the bayonets off and went on, and we fought in fields and in little towns and everything till we got back up where we had turned the area over to the other divisions.
At this point, the war had been going on quite some time. The German army was starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as new recruits themselves. What were the age of the enemy that you came across?
Well, we captured some that were, I would say, 13 or 14, and some, unfortunately, I would say probably, I'm 83 years old, so I would say it had probably been maybe in their 80s. And they were, both of them were not physically, adapted to that type of combat.
When you when the Bulge went on and the actual fighting of the Bulge went on for, history tells us for roughly a month, there was approximately 45,000 casualties during that battle, intensive fighting. And you were, as you say, in St. Vith, that was in Luxembourg. Malmedy was nearby. That's where the massacre at Malmedy happened. What? Tell our viewers, you were obviously not at Malmedy when that happened, but what happened at Malmedy?
Well, the Germans captured several Americans, and we never found out whether it was the 99th or the 106th, but they lined up several of them and just shot them down. And when the word got out, the officers couldn't tell us this, but the non-com said, you got to be quick. Don't let them get their hands in the air. So we don't take any prisoners. And for, I would say, probably a month, if you didn't shoot them, somebody in your squad would.